Muslim is the one who avoids harming the Muslims with his tongue and hands. Good Muslim is the one who avoids harming the Muslims with his tongue and hands. Good Muslim is the one who avoids harming the Muslims with his tongue and hands.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, amma ba'd, fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajeem, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, as-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah, as-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Noorallah. Dear viewers and listeners of Madani Channel, welcome back to this wonderful episode on the silsila, The Ideal Muslim. And today as well we have a very important topic of discussion. In our previous episode, we had discussed at length regarding the spiritual disease of hard-heartedness. And although this silsila is not regarding spiritual diseases, but we thought it necessary to include that and one more spiritual disease that many of us we have, perhaps we don't know. And if I do have this, what are some of those practical solutions and cures that can rid this from my life? Because it is stealing my happiness, my peace as well. Before I mention what our topic of discussion is for this episode, please make good intentions. As the beloved Master Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, Niyatul mu'mini khayrum min amalihi. The intention of a believer is better than his action. So don't delay, make those good intentions today, make them now. In fact, that I'm watching, I'm listening to this silsila of Madani Channel for the pleasure of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal and the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That what I learn, I will try my best to act upon it and to teach others as well. Grab your notebooks and your pens, take down the important Madani pearls of advices so that you can always refer to them at a later stage. Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal, we are always listening to the abundant amounts of blessings, bounties and benefits for the fortunate Muslims who recite abundant amounts of Durood-e-Pak or salawat or salutations upon the cream of creation, the owner of Jannah, the knower of the unseen, the intercessor of the Ummah, our beloved Master Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Listen to this very beautiful Hadith-e-Pak and be inspired. This is recorded in the famous book Mishkatul Masabih. The narrator is Sayyidina Abu Talha radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and he says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once approached me and he had signs of joy and happiness on his blessed face and said to me that Jibreel alayhi salam came to me stating the following in a humble manner that Allah Azza wa Jal has stated. What did he say? Subhanallah Azza wa Jal, listen carefully. Jibreel alayhi salam says to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ama yurdika ya Muhammadu ألا يصلي عليك أحد من أمتك إلا صليت عليه عشرا ولا يسلم عليك أحد من أمتك إلا سلمت عليه عشرا. Allahu Akbar. The translation is, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, are you not pleased that when anyone from your ummah sends salat, durood upon you one time, I shower 10 mercies on that person, and when anyone from your ummah sends one salam, I send salam 10 times on that person. Allahu Akbar. The words of Allah Azza wa Jal via Jibreel alayhi salam to the beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So do we also want to be included amongst these privileged people? We know what to do. Send large amounts of salawat and Durood-e-Pak. Let us recite together. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I'm sure you are eagerly awaiting to find out what is that other spiritual disease which is one of the major attacks of Satan, Iblis, the humiliated and cursed one. And that is none other than jealousy. First, let's listen to a Madani parable which contains many lessons for us. This is mentioned in the 98-page book Hasad, published by Maktabatul Madinah, the publications department of Dawat Islami. It is mentioned that there was a certain individual who had a special privilege of daily attending the royal court of the king, and he would advise him. Once he advised the king that return the favor when anybody does a favor to you, and don't bother about the one who does evil, because that person will ultimately face the evil of his own consequences and his own actions. Because of these good advices, the king loved him dearly and would give him a special place near him in his court. Nevertheless, seeing this respect and this love that the king was giving this individual, one of the courtiers, one of the other ministers who had a high rank in the court of the king, he became jealous of this. That why is he showing so much of attention towards that person? I wish that I get that attention, not that person there. So this person started to plot and plan, the jealous one. And he decided that I'm going to go to the king and lie about this individual. So this person privately, he comes to the king and says, Your Majesty, this person talks bad about you to other people, that you have a bad breath. He tells the king, that person that you are close to and giving a lot of love and attention, he goes around telling the people that you have a bad breath. The king hears this and asks, do you have any proof for this? This jealous person replies, Your Majesty, tomorrow call him close to you and see what he does. He will cover his nose with his hand when you speak to him. Nevertheless, the next day, the jealous individual, he calls and he invites that favored person to his home for a meal. The jealous person serves him with some gravy, but he put a large amount of raw garlic in that. After the meal, it was the routine of that favored person to go towards the king and give him some piece of advice. So after the meal, he goes to the king, and the king calls him closer. When he comes right near to the king, he realizes, I ate all of that raw garlic by that other person's house, the courtier's house. So he covers his mouth and his nose so it doesn't affect and offend the king. The king sees this and is convinced that yes, what that other minister said about this person here is true. Therefore he is covering his mouth and his nose. The king then issues a royal decree in writing that as soon as this person comes to you with my letter, cut off his head and stuff his corpse with straw and return it to me. It was the habit of the king, whenever he would send somebody with one of his sealed letters, the person, the messenger, the one who carried that letter, he would reward him handsomely. He would send these people to governors of other places and cities. But on this occasion, the king decided that, okay, I'm going to send this person that I used to favor with my letter. Instead of being rewarded handsomely, I'm going to order the governor of that place to behead him, to execute him. Nevertheless, this favored person takes the letter. As he is leaving the kingdom, the jealous one sees that he has a sealed letter in his hand from the king. And he tells him, oh, the king has given you a letter, and he knows, according to him, the king rewards that person who delivers a letter to one of his governors. But he didn't know this time the king had demanded from the governor that don't give the reward, rather execute the person who has this letter. So he insists, this jealous person, he insists from that person, the favored one, give me this letter, please. I will deliver it to the governor. Now, that favored person says, okay, you have a high rank in the court of the king, and why not? Okay, you can take the letter. When this jealous person goes and he delivers that letter to the governor calls the executioner and says, now execute this person. And he pleads for his life, the jealous one. He pleads for his life and he says that no, but the king normally rewards people handsomely, the one who brings the letters to his governors. And the governor says, no, this time the king has ordered the one who comes with this letter, he must be executed. He still pleads for his life and he says, no, there's a misunderstanding. I wasn't supposed to bring this letter. It was somebody else who was supposed to bring it. You can ask the king, confirm with the king. And the governor says, no, there's no necessity in that. We are ordered to obey the command of the king. And this jealous person was then executed. The next day, this favored person visits the royal court of the king. The king sees him and is shocked and says, but I gave you the letter to give to the governor and you are still here? And this favored person says, yes, your honor, yes, your majesty. Actually, when I left your court, a certain individual, the courtier, the minister, had told me he wanted to take this letter instead and go to the governor. So the king said, okay, something must be wrong here. But did you not say to that same minister, to other people, I have a bad breath and speak bad about me? The favored person says, no, your majesty, I never did such a thing. So the king asked him, why yesterday did you cover your mouth and your nose when you came close to me? He says that, well, your majesty, that same minister had invited me to his home for a meal and he put a lot of raw garlic in there. And therefore, I realized that my mouth had a bad smell. And when you called me close to you, I did not want that smell to offend you, and therefore I covered my mouth. The king realized it was the hasad, the jealousy of that minister that made him lie to him about this favored individual. And he understood everything from there. He told this favored person, in future, when you advise me, then add this statement as well. For the destruction of a person, his bad actions are enough to harm him, as happened to the jealous person. And dear viewers and listeners of Madani Channel, this parable is mentioned in the world famous book Ihya'ul Ulum of Sayyiduna Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. But have we seen that jealousy, greed, what major roles of devastation, of destruction it leads in the life of a person? The same jealousy, it steals the peace of our hearts and our minds. It steals our happiness away. That when we look at a person who is perhaps better than us, we may feel in terms of looks, beauty and handsomeness, or in terms of the car that they drive, or in terms of the wealth that they have acquired and worked for, the businesses they have, the good jobs that they have, the eloquence of their recital of the glorious Quran, or of their discourses, their bayans and lectures. And we feel in our hearts that I wish that person didn't have those abilities and I had them. Jealousy is a self-destructive habit. How do we deal with this for those who are striving to become an ideal Muslim? We need to identify firstly, do I have this spiritual disease? How do I identify this disease or other such spiritual diseases? How do I overcome it? What cures are there? What solutions are there so that I can rid myself of the spiritual disease of hasad, of jealousy? We need to keep certain things in mind. That hasad, jealousy, it ruins good deeds. The beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has stated regarding this evil action of hasad, of jealousy, as recorded in Sunan Ibn Majah, that Al-hasadu ya'kulul hasanati kama ta'kulun narul hatab. The jealousy, it consumes, it eats good deeds as fire consumes wood. Allahu Akbar. In another blessed hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam has ordered us to establish brotherhood amongst the believers, amongst his ummah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam states, do not be jealous of one another. Do not bear malice and hatred towards one another. And don't speak ill of one another behind their backs. But O worshippers of Allah Azza wa Jal, live as brothers. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. Mufti Ahmad Yar Khan, rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, the great commentator of the glorious Quran, has mentioned that evil suspicion, envy, jealousy, malice, etc. are those things which remove love from the Islamic brotherhood of the Muslims. And this Islamic brotherhood of the Ummah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it requires love. Therefore, overcome and rid your lives of these faults so that you live as brothers. Now, jealousy itself, how do we define it? What is the Islamic teaching regarding the concept, the definition and the meaning of hasad, which is jealousy? Amir Ahl Sunnah, the founder of Dawud Islami, Hazrat Allama Maulana Abu Bilal Muhammad Ilyas al-Tarqadri, Dam Barakatuhum al-Aliyah, has written in his famous booklet called Causes of a Bad End. And he gives this definition as extracted from the book Lisanul Arab, volume 3, page 166. It mentions that Al-Hasadu, jealousy, Al-Hasadu an tatamanna zawala ni'matil mahsudi ilayka. Allahu Akbar. The jealousy means to desire the loss of a favor of the mahsud, the one whom you are jealous of. The loss of a favor of the one whom you are jealous of, and desiring that favor for yourself. The summary of it means a certain person is blessed by whom? By Allah Azza wa Jal, with wealth or with intelligence or perhaps with a lot of wisdom and knowledge. Allah Azza wa Jal blesses that person, and we look at that person and says, how I wish, why that person, why not me? How I wish that person didn't have that ability or those capabilities and I had them. This is the factor, the main factor here is that it must be removed from that person, and I must have those qualities or those blessings and benefits as well. However, that's the definition of jealousy. It must be, the favor must be removed from the mahsud, the one whom I'm jealous of, and must transfer to me. I must have those abilities and those blessings as well. There is something else which is called ribta, and this is not jealousy. It means simply that you see a person who is blessed by Allah Azza wa Jal with some materialistic things like wealth, etc. And you also desire, how I wish I also had this. But you don't have the intention or the desire that it must be taken away from that person and given to you. This is ribta. This is not hasad. Hasad, jealousy, it must be removed from that person. I want that. And ribta is that person has it. Alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jal bless that person with more. I wish I also had this, Ya Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal has stated in the glorious Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 109, translation from Kanzul Iman. Many among the people of the book wished to turn you to disbelief after you had accepted faith, Iman. Out of their hearts, jealousy, envy, after the truth has become very clear to them. So pardon them and be tolerant until Allah brings His command, indeed Allah is able to do all things. Another verse of the Holy Quran, Surah Nisa, verse 54, states, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمْ يَحْسُدُونَ النَّاسَ عَلَى مَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Translation from Kanzul Iman. Or do they envy people due to what Allah has given them from His grace? Surah Nisa verse 32 says, وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Translation from Kanzul Iman. And do not long for things by which Allah has given superiority to some of you over others. My dear viewers and listeners of Madani Channel, a believer, a Muslim, an ummati of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam must learn about these spiritual diseases. If we truly want to become that ideal Muslim, this is part and parcel of it. Besides learning about the fard ibadat, like perfecting our salah, knowing about the ins and the outs, the do's and don'ts of our deen, the halal, the haram, regarding zakah, fasting in Ramadan, the manastikul hajj, the rights or the rules of the hajj, etc. All these things, fulfilling the hukuk and the rights of others, it is necessary for us. In fact, Ala Hazrat, Imam Ahl Sunnat, Imam Ahmad Raza Khan rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, has mentioned it is necessary for every believer out there, every Muslim out there, to learn about spiritual diseases, their symptoms and the cures for them as well. Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal, Dawud Islami has published a book on this subject as well, which you can find from dawudislami.net. And Amir Ahl Sunnah Barakatuhumul Aliyah has included many of these points in the Madani In'amat booklet. So if you are practical on that, inshallah Azza wa Jal, it will be easier for you to identify which spiritual diseases that I have and the ways of removing it from our lives. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has stated, Al-Hasad, jealousy, it damages Iman exactly in the same way as bitter aloe spoils the sweet honey. And then the hadith mentions, do not transgress when you feel jealousy. Discard, remove suspicion, and when you feel evil omen about any work, and do it having trust and yaqeen in Allah Azza wa Jal. Also, people will remain in peace as long as they do not have jealousy. My dear viewers and listeners of Madani Channel, it is mentioned in the glorious Quran, Surah Nisa, verse 86, translation from Kanzul Iman. And when you are greeted with some words, greet back with words better than it or with the same. This is one practical solution that the honorable scholars of Islam have mentioned in removing spiritual diseases like jealousy, like arrogance, like pride as well. In fact, Amir Ahl Sunnah Barakatuhumul Aliyah has included this in the Madani In'amat booklet, which you can also obtain via Maktabatul Madina, the publications department of Dawud Islami, or online. There are special applications or apps that are out there for you to use via the internet and other sources as well. He states that today, whilst going or returning from the office or home or public transport, etc., or whilst walking, did you greet Muslims with salam, with whomever you came across? And whether we know that Muslim or we don't, that greeting of salam, be the first one to greet, make it widespread amongst you. Another narration mentions the person who is first to make salam is free from takabbur, free from pride and arrogance as well. Now, who was the first one to commit this evil act, this major sin of hasad, of jealousy? None other than Aduwwum Mubin, our open enemy, Iblis, Shaitan, Satan, the cursed and humiliated one, he was the first one to be trapped by this feeling of jealousy. When Allah Azza wa Jal created Nabi Adam ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wassalam, Iblis, Shaitan, he was called Azazil before, and he became Iblis because of that jealousy. Imam Jalaluddin Suyuti Ash-Shafi'i rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi has mentioned that the first disobedience to Allah Azza wa Jal was because of jealousy, hasad. Iblis Mal'oon, the cursed and humiliated Satan, he refused to make that sajda of respect to Nabi Adam alayhi salam, and it is this jealousy which provoked him to disobey Allah Azza wa Jal. Allahu Akbar. And many other factors, but one of the factors that led to the destruction of Shaitan, of Satan, the humiliated and cursed one, was this hasad, was this jealousy. And then obviously there was pride, that I am better than him, and there was his ego, his nafs as well. Allah will protect us against that. At the time of Nabi Nuh ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wassalam, as he was boarding the pairs of male and female, the animals into the ark, he was an old man who wanted to also board. And Nabi Nuh alayhi salam asked him that, who gave you permission to come aboard? And he replied that, I have arrived here to spread evil, the evil whispers into the hearts of the people, so that at that time their hearts will remain with me, whilst their bodies will remain with you. Nabi Nuh alayhi salam says, O enemy of Allah Azza wa Jal, remove yourself from here, get off this ark. Allahu Akbar. Satan then replied, yes, he was Satan. He replied, I destroy people using 5 tricks. I can inform you of 3, but 2 I cannot tell you. Just then Allah Azza wa Jal sends a wahi, a revelation to Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, that say to Satan, the cursed one, I don't need to know those 3. Just inform me of those 2. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. Satan replies, okay, those 2 tricks which I destroy people with, and which has never failed me, these 2 tricks and traps that never fail me in destroying an individual, is one of them is jealousy, and the other is greed. And it is the jealousy which has made me cursed and damned as well. Allahu Akbar. Can you see how serious a matter this jealousy is? Whether I am jealous of my colleague, or a sibling, or somebody that I know or I don't know, the jealousy, if it is there, it will consume our good deeds. So what benefit are we truly getting? It removes the peace from our minds, our hearts. It steals the happiness from our lives. It consumes, it eats up, it ruins our good deeds. What's the benefit in this? Allahu Akbar. My dear viewers and listeners of Madani Channel, there are some signs of a jealous person. Sayyidina Wahab bin Munabbih radiyallahu ta'ala anhu says that some of those signs are when he is in front of the mahsood, that person whom he is jealous of, then he praises him, he flatters him, he backbites about this person, and he becomes happy when that person is in trouble or in distress. Allahu Akbar. May Allah will protect us against jealousy, becoming jealous, and the jealousy of others as well. Our ulama ikram have mentioned that some practical cures that we can use in our lives to remove this evil trait and habit of jealousy, so that we can become that ideal Muslim, are some of the following. Make dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. Never leave dua, no matter what it is. Make dua, Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, O Allah Azza wa Jal, help me to get rid of hasad, of jealousy. for the sake of your pleasure and happiness. And whatever other spiritual diseases are there, whatever other problems are there, constantly seek forgiveness in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. Ya Allah, sincerely, Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, I regret having this jealousy or whatever other disease, spiritual disease or evil habit. Help me to remove this. So, sincerely make tawbah in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. Be content with the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal, because Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who gives, has given whoever it is whatever they have, has given us whatever we deserve. And we need to understand this, that it is Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal who gives to people. And if we are jealous of that, what Allah Azza wa Jal has given, then are we having an objection against the will of Allah Azza wa Jal and to whom He gives what? Keep the distractions of jealousy in your mind. Ponder over the blessings that turn into the cause of jealousy. Allah Azza wa Jal has given these things. Don't focus on other people's blessings. Focus on our own. Strive to rectify your own faults and replace hatred with love. Cultivate the habit of being happy in others' happiness and practice upon the Madani In'amat. The Madani In'amat is a powerful tool, a powerful program to help us to reform ourselves and join the beautiful Madani movement of Dawud Islami. And inshallah ta'ala, you will see positive results in your life. May Allah Azza wa Jal remove the spiritual disease of jealousy and others as well. Protect us and our families. Ameen. Bijahin Nabiyil Ameen. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallu ala al-Habib. Sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Good Muslim is the one who avoids harming the Muslims with his tongue and hands. Good Muslim is the one who avoids harming the Muslims with his tongue and hands. Good Muslim is the one who avoids harming the Muslims with his tongue and hands.